What headlines make the news that put virtually everyone in shambles? Kidnapping, murder, massacre, or even terrorism. Yes, we are not far from the truth. It is murder. And what makes it more interesting is because it is a high-profile murder. Mrs. Okafor is the CEO of Gold Incorporation, and she is also a celebrated personality in the country. She resumed office this fateful morning to receive the greatest shock of her life. Her son is dead. Kemi killed Mrs. Okafor's son and has been arrested by the police. Inspector Mike and Inspector Daniel were interrogating her when they heard noise from the counter. Daniel wanted to know what might have caused such a disorder. Tosin is Kemi's younger brother. He received a call earlier from his sister before she had been arrested. Tosin pleaded with Officer Daniel to see his sister, and his request was granted. He appears to be the only person his sister can talk to, and she has a story to tell. It all started a few months back. Everything started with their mother, Mrs. Akintola. She seems to have taken hold of everything in the house. While Mr. Akintola is a gentle man who wants the best for his family, but his wife tends to have overpowered him in every cause. She is upset that her husband embarrassed her at a party, so therefore, the roof must come down regardless of what hour it is. Dozie Okafor is the billionaire's son. He runs a company as an app developer, and as a rich, young, and handsome man, every woman wants him. But there is a lot more yet to be told about him. He mistakenly bumped into a lady, and I guess all he could think about is another lady who wants to have a taste of his affluence. He got what he was looking for and was about to pay when he found out that he was wrong. Kemi saw what had happened and obliged to pay for him. But somehow his face looked familiar to Kemi when she asked the salesgirl, and she was right. He is the son of the distinguished Okafor. It was the opportunity she had wanted. Her mother had always reminded her ever since she was a child to marry a man with surplus wealth, because it is only him that can give her happiness and a peace of mind. She met with him, and he wanted to make it up to her for her kindness with an outing later that night. It was a special night, as the famous Dozie Okafor made a reservation for the entire restaurant. Kemi felt so warm with such an extraordinary treat. She thinks he is a sweet gentleman until something happens. He condescends to the waiter as a nobody for his poor services. Another thing you should know about Dozie is that he is also an arrogant man, and be sure that this is not all about the notable billionaire's son. This didn't ring a bell to Kemi, but what do you expect from a lady who will do anything to have such a person of his caliber? The news was already everywhere in blogs about Dozie and Kemi. Mrs. Akintola knew her daughter would not disappoint her. She was so excited and wanted to know everything about her new boyfriend. Not only that, her mom was already anticipating what the wedding ceremony will be like. Should we call her a desperate mother? On the flip side, Mrs. Okafor is a very busy lady who barely had time for herself, talk less of her son. Dozie was surprised to see his mother home after many days. All she wanted to know is how his business was doing, because that's the only language she understands. And according to him, business was fine. But he needed 20 million naira for support. That shouldn't be a problem to Mrs. Okafor. Mrs. Akintola owns a fashion house. Kemi works there for her mother. They have a fashion show coming up soon, so all hands were on deck when Dozie called. It was special to her, so she had to go somewhere quiet to take his call. They were already dating, so spending most of her days in his house was no longer a problem. Every time spent together was really the sweetest moment to Kemi. You may call him a perfect gentle man, but this is what every man will always do at the early stage of a relationship. I mean, Kemi's case shouldn't be different. Not only that, the relationship got sweeter and stronger that Dozie was also invited by the Akintola family for lunch. Mr. Akintola was more emphatic about what Dozie does for a living, but his wife will always take the lead as a boss lady she thinks she is. She thinks her husband's questions are becoming embarrassing to their guest. Just then, one of the men servants wrongly served him with his left hand, and he acted as usual to condescend to people who were not qualified to stand before him. This didn't go well with Tosin and his father, but everything was fine by the Akintolas. Another major fact you should know about Dozy is he is a failure. Everything he does never succeeds except with the intervention of his mother. He just lost his major clients due to glitches on the server his company has been working on. Tosin also has a passion for music he was practicing when his father came in. His dad is not happy with the path his son, who studied business administration, has decided to follow as a career. But Tosin was still optimistic about his dream. Dozy thought about taking his girlfriend to the club. He wanted her to meet with his friends. Daniel happens to be one of Dozy's friends. And, as an intelligent officer, he wanted to know what she does for a living. He knew a couple of friends he could introduce her to, and she told him where she works, so he asked for her business card, which she gave him. Dozy was already angry with everything that was going on. It got even worse when Kemi offered to dance with him since Dozy wasn't in the mood. Only if Kemi knew what she had gotten herself into. Kemi knew that he wasn't himself at the club. She wanted to know what wrong she had done. One thing Dozy doesn't like is when she talks back while he is talking. She wanted to defend her every action when he lashed at her. Kemi thought it was a joke until she was dragged on the staircase and manhandled. The following morning, her mother came inside her room. She saw the bruises. And the best advice she could give her daughter was to be tolerant with him. Kemi told her that she never saw her father hit her, but she gave an absurd response that her father wasn't man enough to hit her, and it was only men who hit their women. You shouldn't be surprised when the chicken comes home to roost. Dozy had to send flowers and gifts to show how sorry he was. He then called her and promised never to hit her again. At the other end is Derek. He is a talented app developer who is so passionate with what he does. He has been working on a prototype for a long time now, which is almost completed, but he is finding it hard to find a sponsor. Derek is almost frustrated and wants to sell this great app. Tosin thinks it's a great opportunity. He made an offer to him to buy 85% share of his intellectual property while he possibly found an investor. This was a huge relief for Derek. Mrs. Okafor was back home. She wanted to know how her son's business was doing. As usual, Dozy will always make a good remark. Little did he know that his mother knew everything that happens with him and around him. His mother wasn't happy with what was happening, and will keep telling her son that failure is not an option. Tosin pitched the idea to Kemi about Derek's prototype. She thinks it's a great idea. She wanted him to meet with someone who could help. The lady thinks his prototype will make a huge profit and would like him to pitch the features of the app to the board members of her organization. Yet another crash. Dozy just lost another major contract with the government after spending over 65 million naira. He was so angry that his voice almost freaked out Kemi, but she tried to calm him down. Only if he could get 150 million naira to gain access to meet with the Minister of Communications will he be fine. He wants Kemi to help him in any way she can. All she can do now is to make him happy, and she is willing to make such a sacrifice. Tosin and Derek met with the board, and with the presentation, which was very impressive, the board wanted to buy the prototype for $400,000, but Tosin declined. They made another offer for $600,000, but he still declined. This was not going well with Derek, but he remained calm. Until it got to $1 million, but it wasn't the right offer. Derek thinks Tosin has made the biggest mistake. Only if he knew what the prototype holds, Tosin assured him that they will come back. But on Dozy's end, he kept losing touch. This time, his staff members exhibited their incompetence, and things were beginning to get out of hand. He got a phone call that Kemi was around. I guess he wouldn't joke with her because of what he intends to get from her family through her. He already got the information that Tosin has a great app, which was about to be launched. Kemi gave him more hints about the last offer he got worth 1 million naira and how he rejected it. Dozy thinks the prototype will mean a lot for such an amount, so he manipulates Kemi into stealing the prototype. This tells that there is nothing a woman wouldn't do for the man she loves, but in this case, the dude doesn't care. The company gave Tosin and Derek their final bid for a $2.5 million deal, The lady advised them to accept the offer because another company is about to launch the same kind of app in the coming month. They got to find out from her that it was Gold Incorporation, which is owned by the Okafors. Things were beginning to fizzle out. Kemi is pregnant. Tosin confronted her to know how he got the app. He then found out that Kemi stole it with her response. He promised to make them pay for what they did. Kemi knows what her brother can be capable of. Dozy assured her that he has gotten everything sorted out. She then told him that she is pregnant. Dozy bluntly told her to get rid of the pregnancy. Kemi never knew how sacrosanct his mother meant to him when she involved his mother's name to what she had to say. At that moment, she got the beating of her life that almost sent her to her early grave. It was really a horrible experience, as she laid on the ground lifeless. Kemi spent 2 days in the hospital without knowing, not even her family knows her whereabouts. The nurse told her that a man came to drop her and dropped some cash for her treatment. And to make matters worse, she didn't lose only her baby, but she lost her womb. Kemi left the hospital straight to Dozy's house, only to find out that Dozy is a beast. Her mother has always told her to marry a wealthy man with surplus wealth, because it is only him that can give her happiness and a peace of mind. But what her mother never told her is that these kinds of men may send you to your early grave because your contribution to their success is worthless. Kemi has not been seen or heard from for days now. Her dad thinks calling the police is the right thing to do, but her mother believes that she's fine with her lover somewhere and calling the police wouldn't be good for her business. Just then, she came in looking all battered. She had to cover up while she told her father that she was fine. Her mother took her to the room and told her not to worry, and it's part of the sacrifices a woman should tolerate for love. She had to ask her mother, what if those sacrifices hurt her loved ones? She then replied that relatives must also endure and make sacrifices for the sake of love. Kemi had to tell her mother what she had done. She sold her housing property in Echo Atlantics to save his business. Mrs. Akintola thought she heard something else until her daughter repeated what she had said. She couldn't assimilate and process what she just heard and almost went insane. She was immediately rushed to the hospital. The doctor confirmed that she had developed a partial stroke as a result of the sudden shock. This was the beginning of another era in Akintola's family. Kemi couldn't forgive herself for everything she has put her family through, all because of love. Every promise he made to her and the misfortunes of her family kept ringing in her memory like she was going demented. She must take her pound of flesh back. But Dozy, as an arrogant and ignorant man that he is, thinks he could step on anyone since he has what it takes. Kemi brought his special meal, and everything was fine until he found himself tied up on a chair by his girlfriend after being unconscious for a while. He sensed trouble, but his arrogance won't let him. He still threatened her while tied up, then he had to beg for his life. Kemi had to stop him from talking, because his words still melted her heart. She wanted to make a video about everything she was about to do, probably for the whole world to see. She wanted him to feel pains like how her family were feeling until she shot him. Dozy died at the spot, and now justice must be served. Thanks for watching. Please comment your thoughts, and also like and share this video for more super amazing videos that we are bringing to you. And if you're watching from our YouTube channel, you can also subscribe and turn on your notification for more. Thank you.